Okay, we are at the museum in Montalcino, a beautiful place where every year we have Benvenuto Brunello held here, where about 200 journalists are invited to taste the latest vintage, which in this case happens to be 2010 for Anteprima. With me, I have Count Francesco Cinzano, who is the owner of Col, but also, importantly for me, he has been the former president of Consorzio Vino di Brunello Montalcino, and he was in India, I don't know.
Last November?
No, earlier, the first time when I met you.
Quite a number of years ago.
It was 2006 or 7, I think. I met him in Delhi.
Right, yes.
And we had the pleasure of tasting the Brunello for that vintage, first in India, first in the world, in fact, and he probably explained to you what I mean by that. And I present to you Count Cinzano. So tell me, you have been the president from which period to which period?
I was chairman of the Producer Association, the Producer Guild, in 2007, 2008.
Okay.
And here in the land of Sangiovese, this is the name of the grape we use in this part of the world. In fact, we are the only territory to, by law, we are restricted to only this grape variety. And the reason is that there is a very special combination of factors here in terms of climate and in terms of terroir that allows us to work with this grape in purity. So we produce two main wines. One is Brunello di Montalcino. Brunello di Montalcino is the wine that has the great ageability potential, that has made this territory famous around the world, and a wine that we can release only in the 5th year since the harvest. So now we are tasting here this year, beginning of 2015, the 2010 vintage, a great vintage, one of the vintages that will challenge the great harvests of the past, such as 1990, 1985. So quite a unique event this year of tasting such an important, such a unique vintage. We also produce Rosso di Montalcino as well, only Sangiovese. And Rosso di Montalcino is the young wine, the everyday wine made from the Brunello vineyards. So we pick some of the grapes in the vineyard early, or the younger vineyards just planted for producing this wine, which is fresh, crisp, easy to drink, really wine that can be approached on an everyday basis. And here we are presenting now the 2013 vintage.
Many people do not release, like 2013, they may not release now, they may release in 2015 also, so they keep extra time for Brunello as well as Rosso, right?
Rosso can be kept longer. In our case, in the case of Col, we like to release it young, and fresh, and fruity. But some producers do hold it longer in the barrel to give it more complexity and more depth.
So, first of all, why do you call it Brunello? Is the grape, the local name is Brunello, or what?
That's right. That comes from the history, a very long history in this part of the world.
Okay.
We've been producing wine for more than 2,500 years.
Oh, wow.
Ever before even the Romans, here when the Etruscans used to live in this part of the world. And then in the 19th century, we started setting the rules of pure Sangiovese, and that's when the name of the grape, such as it was called in this part of the world, Brunello, was used for the wine as well.
So when was the appellation formed for Montalcino?
But the appellation was formed in the 1960 officially by law of the Italian Republic. But in fact, the concept of producing only with grapes from the territory of Montalcino and solely Sangiovese dates from the beginning of the 20th century.
I see. So, but the consortium was formed in 1966, I believe, or
that's right.
Okay,
yes.
And so it was. It came out as DOC.
It was DOC at the beginning, so denomination of origin controlled.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when Italy decided to set stricter rules for a small number of wines, they increase the controls to DOCG, so controlled and guaranteed. And Brunello was the first wine, together with only 2 other wines, to be awarded this denomination at the very beginning in 1980.
1980. So you've been DOCG since 1980?
Since 1980.
Okay. And how much is the production of Brunello Rosso?
The total production of Brunello these days is around 8.5-9 million bottles per year. And Rosso Montalcino is smaller. It's about 4.5 million bottles per year.
So what do you drink in the house normally? You drink Rosso or Brunello?
You drink Rosso at lunchtime, you drink Rosso on an everyday basis. Brunello is more of a wine for celebration, for special occasions, for dinner parties.
Like last night, we've had plenty of Brunellos and Reserva. So talking of Reserva, what is the rule on Reserva?
There is a wine that's kept until the 6th year in the cellar. So now we are presenting the 2009 vintage of Brunello di Montalcino Riserva. This is a wine that has to be held longer, and it wants to represent the essence of Brunello. It wants to represent the fact that Brunello is the wine of Italy that can be aged the longest, on par with the great wines from other parts of the world.
Okay, so talking of ageability, I was at Il Paggiolo, yeah, dinner, and you had a dinner same night, so I couldn't come to your dinner, unfortunately. Now, I tasted 1970. And I believe you served in 1965. So,
right.
And I remember going to Beyond the Santis vineyard many years ago, and he had in his library 1887 or something like that.
That's right.
So, apparently Brunello will age a lot. So, what would you say, in a good year, what will be the ageability of Brunello?
Really, if it is a good vintage, so with a nice level of acidity, as I like to say, it all hinges on the cork. If the cork falls, and obviously the wine is kept in a cellar in the darkness and the freshness of an underground cellar, then it can last almost indefinitely.
So that's interesting. You're telling me the acidity is the backbone for Brunello, but how about the tannins? I've tasted many wines here which are highly tannic. I mean, I suppose the producers are banking on ageability with tannins. What do you say to that?
The tannins do tend to survive with the right level of acidity, to survive all through the life of the wine, even after many, many decades of aging. They will develop, they will soften, they will round up on the edges and become even sweet at the end of the palate, at the end of the tasting. So the 1965 Col d'Orcia Brunello di Montalcino Riserva we tasted the other evening had a very mellow, very sweet finish to it.
You make your Reserva is Poggio al Vento, right?
That's right.
And I think you age 1 year more than is required by law. So
in fact, 2 years.
2 years. So
we release it when on the 8th year from harvest.
Okay.
So we keep it 4 years in the barrels, and then another 4 years.
Barrels like Botte, big barrels.
Big barrels.
Okay.
Big barrels.
And then Barrique also.
Barrique,
no Barrique.
Not
Okay.
for Brunello.
So talking about that, there are two styles in Montalcino: the modern and the old traditional style. So what do you recommend and what do you use, and what's the difference for our reviewers?
Well, there are 290 producers of Brunello and Montalcino, so there are many variations, many interpretations of Brunello.
Sure.
Some producers like to for the wine to be more easy and ready to drink on release.
More fruit forward, more fruity.
And those are more modern, if you like, producers that use, in fact, small wood, small barrels.
Barrique.
In my case, I am a traditionalist. I like the wine to respect the tradition and the history of Montalcino, so the great ageability, and that's why I use the large barrels, and I keep the wine a long time, and also respect the characteristic of the Sangiovese grape, which is a high level of acidity and a great level of concentration of the tannins as well.
So we are talking of 2008 was a very good vintage, 4-star, but your wine was delicious, and 2010 that you've come out with is again very nice. So in terms of, first of all, you would think 8 was better for you or 10? And in terms of ageability, what would you estimate the ageability of the two wines?
They are different. I don't know if I can say which one I consider best. They are different because there is a greater ripeness and maybe a little bit more dried fruit, jamminess in the 2008, and there is more brightness in the 2010. Both will age a very long time.
Well, long time means what? 20 years, 30 years, 40 years?
50 years, 60 years, 70
wonderful.
years.
Okay, it is stored properly. Wonderful.
It is stored properly.
And are you going to say something about 2009?
And 2009, well, 2008, first of all, is more drinkable now compared with 2010. 2010 needs to be laid down for some time.
Yeah.
2009 is very, very drinkable now. It is a wine that has spent two and a half years in the bottle by now, so the tannins have started to develop, and it is not too concentrated, so it is very approachable, very enjoyable to drink now.
There have been some instances, and there's some pressures for producers to want to add a little bit of some other grapes like Cabernet or Merlot for US market, or to make it more rounded, they feel. What do you think of that?
Well, I've always voiced my opinion on this matter, that I feel we should continue producing pure Sangiovese. That's what makes the wines from Montalcino recognizable. They make them unique. No other place in Tuscany, no other place in Italy, no other place in the world produces pure Sangioveses in the way we do. And so we would lose the uniqueness of our production if we were to open up to other grape varieties. I'm a firm believer in the pure Sangiovese.
Okay. Now the thing is, many people in India, of course, they love Brunello. Brunello is a brand. What is the characteristic that they should be looking for? People who don't know much about it, what are they looking for in terms of flavors, in terms of aromas, and things like that? How do they recognize Brunello?
Well, there's a great complexity of aroma. First of all, the color is a light color, so it is a color that can be compared with other grape varieties that are not too deep in color. So they say if you see a ring on your hand through the glass, through the wine, that's Sangiovese.
Okay, brilliant, yeah.
And then the aroma is a very wide range of spiciness and flowery and red fruit to the nose. To the taste, first thing that's noticeable is the brightness and the freshness of the taste due to the typical acidity of Sangiovese, and then again red fruit, and over time when it ages you will start having leather and tar and other elements.
I see some balsamic also coming in later.
And some balsamic elements as well.
20, 30 years old. So now you've been in India for many years in terms of your wine, and it's well liked, very popular. So what would you say about Indian market? Are you happy with the market, and what's your experience with the Indian market?
Well, it's I'm hoping that the Indian consumers will enjoy the imported wines. They've been growing, the interest has been growing, and I enjoy very much visiting because I see real curiosity by the Indian consumers in finding the right pairing of wines with the food, and that's the essence of traditional wine.
Would you
good pairing with?
Okay,
with
talking of pairing, would you recommend Rosso or Brunello with Indian food?
I would recommend both. They are similar in taste pattern, but obviously Rosso Montalcino is easier and more approachable, and
and cheaper
at the beginning.
Because in India the taxes are very high. That's very important for us to keep the price affordable. Many people drink your Brunello because it's a Brunello. You give them Rosso, they will say no, I don't want it. But the point is that the Rosso is a beautiful, delicious, very vibrant wine. So I see why. I don't see any reason why it should not be promoted in India. What do you say to that?
I think there should be room for Rosso Montalcino, and we'll work together towards that.
You are importing through Ace Beverages, right?
Ace Beverages, my importer, has been for a number of years.
Yeah, are you happy with the importer?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. They're good people.
They're doing a good job, yes.
Yeah, so when is the next time you are visiting India now?
Very soon, I hope.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Count. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to see your wine and see you in India.
Thank you, Subhash.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.